Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, October 2. Murders in the St. Andrews South Police Division, now under a state of public emergency, have been halved since it took effect on July 6. Over the 84-day period, the division recorded 22 murders, 31 less than the 53 recorded prior to the implementation of the special security measure. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says in the 84 days since the state of emergency has been declared, shootings and rapes have also declined.
The SOEs work as to whether or not they are the perfect tool. We on this side have said they are not. But they continue to bring us results. If we continue with the measures, we will have 2 consecutive periods of reduction in murders. And that's very important. It is important to get momentum. Very important that criminals understand that there is a consensus amongst lawmakers to have a firm handle on crime.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness putting forward his case for the extension of the St. Andrews South state of emergency in Parliament Tuesday. Members of Parliament supported his arguments and voted to extend the special security measure for another 90 days. Still in Parliament Tuesday, a joint select committee of the House has put forward several recommendations related to the Sexual Offences Act, Offences Against the Persons Act, the Domestic Violence Act, and the Child Care and Protection Act. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck, who tabled the recommendations, says the committee has suggested that the penalties for offences in all 4 pieces of legislation should be increased.
In particular, Mr. Speaker, where criminal offences are committed against vulnerable persons in the community, especially pregnant women, the elderly, the disabled, the sick, because there are people who commit offense and abuse these persons, that the penalties should be very heavy, probably a minimum of 20 years.
The committee is also recommending that a new offense of stalking be created, amending the Domestic Violence Act to enhance protection orders, and removing the conditions from the Sexual Offences Act to determine if a husband can rape his wife. Other considerations preferred by the committee include a law to prevent the criminalization of children where they willingly engaged in sexual activities with each other. In other news, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation has launched an initiative to retrofit schools across the island with rainwater harvesting systems. Dubbed the Water IQ or WIKI initiative, the move is to educate and encourage Jamaicans to conserve and use water with efficiency. At the launch on Tuesday, Portfolio Minister Pernell Charles Jr. said students and teachers will be engaged to become the standard bearers for the success of the initiative.
Each participating school will be assigned 12 water monitors in the form of students and 1 coordinator who will be a teacher or a member of staff. Each water monitor will be trained in a session conducted by the ministry with the involvement of our agencies, the Water Resources Authority, National Water Commission, and Rural Water Supply Limited, and other relevant stakeholders on proper water management practices and techniques.
Minister Charles Jr. was speaking at the commissioning of a rainwater harvesting system at the Rock Hall All-Age School in St. Andrew, benefiting approximately 368 students and teachers. Minister Charles says the country must build its capacity to withstand the effect of climate change, which includes drought conditions.
As a nation, we must do these 2 things. Recognize the value of our water as being essential for life and invaluable to all living creatures. And 2, we must recognize that we all have a social responsibility to conserve and protect our water.
Jamaica has recorded more than 3 million tourists since the start of the year. This number includes approximately 1.9 million stopover visitors and more than 1 million cruise ship passengers. As such, tourism earnings for the period are up by 10.2%. It is anticipated that the tourism earnings will surpass the projected year-end target of $3.7 billion. The latest tourism figures were released yesterday by Portfolio Minister Edmund Bartlett at a media briefing at the ministry's New Kingston office.
As of now, we have an increment of 150,000 more stopover arrivals for the year so far, which is a record in its own way, because this is the end of September. And that 150,000 more visitors for the year represent some 8.6% increase over last year.
He said the outturns put Jamaica firmly on track to meet and exceed the government's end-of-year targets for the sector. The Ministry of Tourism will be placing special focus on increasing arrivals from Japan. Portfolio Minister Edmund Bartlett says new marketing arrangements will be implemented, targeted at the Asian market. Mr. Bartlett is to lead a team to Tourism Expo Japan 2019, slated for later this month. While there, he is scheduled to meet with key officials and stakeholders in an effort to recover that market. He noted that arrivals out of Japan was stronger 30 years ago.
But we lost that market, and we lost it because of a number of factors. But now the Japanese economy has rebounded. They're doing extremely well. Their outbound market now is over 20 million, and the appetite for Jamaica and the Caribbean is returning.
And finally, the importance and benefits of breastfeeding will be the focus of a symposium being held tomorrow at the Montego Bay Convention Center in St. James. The symposium and exhibition is being hosted by the Western Regional Health Authority, which covers Trelawney, St. James, Hanover, and Westmoreland. At a recent JIS think tank, regional health nutritionist Nadine Simmons-Lewis says the event is aimed at further heightening public awareness about breastfeeding. Mrs. Simmons-Lewis says the symposium will be targeting workplaces to make them breastfeeding friendly. In addition to a presentation from the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative, the event will also be garnering support from men through football and cricket associations, ministers fraternal, taxi associations, and service clubs.
We will also have presentation on the nutritional components of breast milk up to 2 years and beyond, for a child 2 years old and beyond. We'll be looking at men in breastfeeding, the role of men in breastfeeding, and also the women, empowering women in the workplace, empowering breastfeeding women in the workplace.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.